Well, good morning / afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Rivals segment. It's great to have Philbert along with us as well. We have the wonderful Pete at the Net. Remember to subscribe to his YouTube page, his Facebook page. The more subscribers he gets, the more that he can podcast and share it around the world. Also, remember to press that subscribe button at a breath of fresh footy on our YouTube page. When this video comes up, give us a thumbs up as well. And remember that we're also on Facebook, so any sort of thumbs up pages on that will help keep us podcasting for longer and giving proper and real opinions apart from, compared to our counterparts on Optus Sport who think everything is negative. We want to be able to give some positivity towards our teams, the Rivals. Big game coming up this weekend in particular, which we'll start with before we get through all the Champions League and Europa League games. It's the Man United and Arsenal derby, whatever you want to say. I'm fully pumped. That's why this segment exists. And we need to see some real good footy in that game, don't we, Pete? And good morning to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Always good, mate.
Well, I honestly reckon it's going to be an absolute cracker this weekend. All I can say is, if Manchester United play against Arsenal the way they did against PSG and Leipzig, I feel sorry for you. You'll get absolutely thumped. The biggest thing with Man United at the moment, can they actually take that form from the Champions League back into the Premier League? That's the big question mark at the moment for me. Can they actually bring that form in? They didn't do it against Chelsea. But then again, I just see Man United at the moment. They seem to be getting better and better every week as this progresses, whether it be Premier League, Champions League, but they're playing some absolutely brilliant football.
Absolutely. And Phil, do you think we've written off Man United too early, given the way that they're playing at the moment?
I totally concur with what Pete's just said. I think they're starting to click. We always love to write off big clubs, and then the little clubs get to the top of the table for the first 5 weeks of the season. And let's face it, after that, usually it reverts to form. However, the real question is, are we going to see a Man United that comes back to close to what we kind of been missing for the last 5 or 6 years? And Pete's saying that we are. And I think I agree. If Pogba can get Pogba happy and keep playing those passes through like he did to the Greenwood, listen, we could be happy, huh?
Well, look, if you guys don't win against us, it'll be the first time since 2006 that Arsenal have won at Old Trafford. That is not a good feeling for the dressing room if you lose. So, and I feel as well at the moment, given what I've seen with Arsenal, sure, we're playing okay and we're keeping in games relatively okay, but there's no creative spark, And unless we actually, for me, I would love to see Reiss Nelson. I'd love to see a ballsy move by Arteta to bring Reiss Nelson into the team. What he did in the Europa League this morning, breaking through the lines. This is what Leeds United have done well all season. And it's the only way I can see us even sort of being competitive against you guys. I'm expecting us to lose 2-0 at least in this.
Yeah, I tell you what, Matty and Phil, if United actually... Look, if they just come and play that game, and I think even 95% of what they did against Leipzig, I'm expecting 3-0. Yeah. I think Marcus Rashford at the moment, he's on fire. Look, even the game against Chelsea, hey, I'm not denying Mendy in goal for Chelsea was superb. He was absolutely superb. But I just think, up forward, Marcus Rashford at the moment, he's a gun. He's doing so much out there at the moment on and off the field. So that guy's confidence is sky high. His status as a footballer is only going to grow and grow and grow with everything he's putting together. What do you reckon, Phil?
On this channel, we do support everything he does. And I was saying to Matty earlier, it's just a shame that not more of them do this. I know that Mane at Liverpool is that kind of guy. He's got a big social conscience, and all power to them. And I think that it informs his game. I'm going to disagree about it being a cracker of a match, though, because Man United's performance, I'm hoping, will be brilliant, and I think they're starting to click into gear. But what's Arsenal going to offer me? I mean, a tiny bit of individual brilliance from Pepe, sure. But what else are they going to do? They're going to keep the ball like businessmen for as long as they can and then blame the loss of the game on their own mistakes. And they'll be wrong about that. Another aspect to look at, who are the big matchups in this game? Where's the Keane versus Vieira? Where's the Nistelrooy versus the defence? Can you name one, either of you?
But the interesting thing, I think, will be the midfield, who we play. I think if we play Ceballos, Xhaka and Partey, that will definitely play into United's hands because it'll be too boring in the midfield with a lack of creativity. I think if he really wants to seriously win the game, he needs to throw a couple of these youngsters into the team. He needs to throw Reece Nelson in there. He needs to start with Pepe so there's some sort of creativity within that midfield. Otherwise, if we don't do that, that's it.
A secondary question. Who's the leader of Arsenal on the pitch? Who is it? Who is an actual leader?
I think if David Luiz is playing, then I think he is. As you could see in the Leicester game, when he went off the field, that's when Leicester started to boss us up in the front three.
Are you convinced by that answer, Pete?
You know what, Phil? Just listening to what you're saying there and what's going through my head right now while I just listened to both of you there is one, De Gea in goal has been in fine form. He's been in absolutely brilliant form. And what I just said before you came on, Phil, was that even if we didn't have Maguire, the way Luke Shaw's playing, Wan-Bissaka, they call him the Spider for a reason. This guy, he's in phenomenal form at the moment. I tell you what, even Lindelof starting to come into form. That's all it takes. And I think we all know, once you get in that good form, if you can just keep that going, gee whiz, it's going to be a tough one, a real tough one for Arsenal here.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think also a very interesting battle will be between who plays better on the left. Is Luke Shaw going to boss it, or is it going to be Kieran Tierney? And these crosses in the box, I feel, in particular with these set plays in this game, if there's going to be goals scored, those sort of quality passes into the box will be very, very important, I feel, as well. So,
yeah, look, I reckon Luke Shaw is a lot quicker this season.
Yeah.
He's a lot quicker. Just watching Luke Shaw run at the moment, he's got a presence about him, and we haven't seen that for seasons now, and it's great to see.
Yeah. But
sorry to go on. I got to second and emphasize the Wan-Bissaka point. Actually, I can't believe this guy. Nothing's getting past him at the moment, and very exciting. And can you name me a better right back in the league at the moment who you think in one-on-ones just forget about it before it's even started?
Look, let's be honest with right backs at the moment. There's not a huge array of talent anywhere around the world with right backs. Wan-Bissaka would be probably one of the best in the world. I mean, if Hector Bellerin is getting linked to all these amazing clubs because he's supposed to be decent and he's a male model who decides to wear Versace and wear his pants up to his, man,
talking
area, and he's deemed a good right back. We know that there's a huge shortage in European and UK football of quality right backs. Wan-Bissaka definitely probably is the best at the moment.
I think one of the key points at the moment for the games have been the clean sheets. The 5-0, even the 2-1 against PSG. It was an own goal by Martial. But De Gea in goal is absolutely phenomenal. He's on form at the moment. Dean Henderson will be sitting there going, oh my God, when am I going to get a game? I know he came into the side because De Gea had some going through a bit of poor form, right? But I tell you what, something's just gone click. And we're seeing De Gea at his best at the moment.
Well, to me, Pete, I've said this whole time, you can quote me on every session that we've had, I've felt really sorry for De Gea. because the reason why he's had poor games is that he hasn't been able to trust his back four whole season, a lot of the time. And I feel what's happened is because you guys have got more compact and more tight in these last few games, it's allowed him to shine because he's able to trust what's going on. He can make the crucial saves when he needs to, and he's playing much better. Since you've been more sound in European football.
Can I just show you something on that, though? I think when they brought Dean Henderson back from Sheffield United and they brought him in, De Gea felt the presence of someone that could take his spot. And I think he had nowhere else to go but to take it up a notch. And I reckon he's done that. Because if he really keeps going backwards, Henderson will slot in there. I know Henderson's sitting there at the moment going, my God, this guy is keeping well. I'm not going to get a shot for the moment.
But look at the games that you've played. You've played quality opposition in the European, tournaments so far. You've played PSG. I thought you battered them. You played Leipzig. We're going to go on to this game, and then we'll go through a couple more games with other teams with it. What I've loved about United, I love being able to see you guys really boss the field. You feel really comfortable with this tempo game. It's less physical at the moment, suits your midfield to a bone, and all of your forwards are reaping the rewards because the midfield's actually passing really decent balls to the forward line.
Well, look, when I look at United and I look at the games that we've got coming up, because Champions League, I think for United, a lot of people wrote Man United off at the start of the Champions League. And what I love about it is, we've got Arsenal this weekend. We go back in the Champions League again, and then we've got Everton. And so we've got some really big games coming up. And it does suit United more. I do believe United in the past years, I'd love to see them prove me wrong. But when they play the lesser sides, especially in the EPL, it's almost they take their foot off the pedal.
Yeah.
And when that happens is when they get done by the Bournemouths and so forth. And I think this is where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, if he keeps his tactics up and bring in the substitutions at the right times, he's doing well so far.
But what do you think of this, Phil, in particular, this comment? So when Arsenal and United have gone on these good running sprees over the last 2 or 3 years, when they've started to play decent football, it feels like they've done it when they've been the complete underdog. And so the pressure's been taken off them. And then all of a sudden, when there's some sort of expectation, they've faltered when they've needed to actually win.
Yeah, I don't know about that comment. I mean, you're talking about Arsenal, so I was half asleep. But, when they get some good players, let me know and I'll watch. Or when they put Ozil back in the team. But about United, we talked a little bit in the earlier podcast. I sometimes wonder, they're playing better against better opposition, that's for sure. And part of that is because maybe better opposition are involved in more competitions like they are.
Yeah.
So the physical side of their game maybe drops off in a way and the mental side comes to the fore, because when you don't have the stamina, you have to think more, which means you're putting in less hard tackles. Then they come back to the Premier League and play a lower side, for want of a better term. And these guys are fit, raring to go, and can't wait to compete. And they do that physically. So that makes winning against those teams really hard.
Yeah,
we always thought it was the grounds and the home and away sort of stuff, but I think also it has a lot to do with that.
And I feel like with us as well, in particular, why we've won the number of FA Cups that we have, like in 17 and last year in particular, was, we're playing teams like Chelsea, Man City, and then we played Chelsea again, and they all had these other competitions that we're concentrating on. And of course, that mental side of things, if you're 1% off, a team like Arsenal, who maybe hasn't gelled, has the quality still to be able to absolutely, give it to you in a game. And this is why it's so difficult for all of the top 6 teams in all of the leagues around Europe and the UK, because they're playing so many games at the moment. And it means when they come back into their normal league, they're finding it really hard. Because
speaking of which, by the way, shall we move along to our Champions League? Because
I was going to link it straight to this thing. The 5-0 against Leipzig. What an absolute trounce. I couldn't believe it. I was watching it. It was like watching Manchester Madrid playing. Absolutely creamed them. Manchester Loner. I mean, it was just so good.
I mean, look, when you look at it, I mean, Manchester United, they had 15 shots, 8 of them were actually on target. Now, and that is absolutely phenomenal football. Now, if you look at Leipzig in the German league, they actually lead the German league over Bayern Munich, which is absolutely fantastic. So it's a great result. They held them well. Possession wise, yeah, it did go to Leipzig there. But, you know, they just pass accuracy, though. Man United, 83%. And it's just a testament to where they're at the moment.
Maybe it's just taken a while for the coach's words to come through. You're right. And once they start getting that pass accuracy up, then their other qualities shine.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Phil. And the one thing that I've started to really notice a difference in the quality of football that they're playing now, those passes, as I said, it's funny actually watching the game this morning, Matty, with Arsenal, and watching those passes come when they actually the ball comes to them, they stop the ball and then they pass off. But what I've noticed in the Champions League so far, those passes, the passes come in, they don't stop it. It's just like boom, boom. It's like a pinball. And I've seen that more and more, and it's exciting to watch. And, you know, when that happens and it comes off well, you know, what Man U did there, and especially Rashford, just gets forward and just really just finds those opportunities and he takes them.
But that's what I miss about Arsene Wenger ball, isn't it? It's that same thing that you're talking about. When Arsenal is on fire, it's one touch. And one of the best goals I ever saw was in the 2013-14 season, where Wilshere finished that whole run. It was just bang, 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 pass into the goal against Norwich. That's when you're playing really, really good footy. And United is doing that as well. And another game that I was particularly interested because I'm following them a little bit this season was City versus Marseille. And City was just on fire. Man, I tell you what, Foden has to be very close this month to being player of the month at City. He is on fire. He's just cutting through all of the team's zonal defenses, just running beautiful footy, finishing goals. I mean, the guy is an absolute serious footballer. Hey, Phil?
Yeah, I watched that match. It's one of those ones where at the end the commentators said they won it comfortably because of the score. And maybe they did, but I just find Man City, apart from Foden, they're just not my kind of team. I preferred them 3 or 4 years ago. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about them.
Well, yeah, I agree. I do agree with you, Phil. You know, I must admit, and I want to talk about the pass accuracy because Man City was 92% in that game. You know, so this is where you're really going to start to see a lot of differences with the teams, you know, especially from the EPL that are going into the Champions League at the moment, because it was really basically 5-4 3 and 2-0 to all the English teams that went in there, from Man U to Chelsea, Man City, and down to Liverpool, who won 2-0. And it's just really exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go on to the so I really enjoyed that City game. I thought they kept the possession. Again, at least I see with them at the moment, they're trying to get a bit more flow back into their foot instead of trying to do the zonal thing. You're starting to see glimpses of it. It's going to happen more when more of their players come back in, like Jesus, when, you know, Aguero is better and he's back from his injury, when De Bruyne is starting to get out of that red zone of injuries and he'll start influencing games more. We'll see that a lot more. The game of that has the biggest talking point, and I know Phil's following Liverpool a bit, is the 2-0 to Liverpool and losing a defender, another defender. Scary times for Liverpool, hey?
Yeah, well, look, it was a weird decision by Klopp. He played a completely different front three, and they weren't offering anything. Minamao, I'm sorry, it just doesn't look like the deal. Jota even looked a little bit bereft of ideas. And as for Origi, maybe he's the next Solskjaer. He should only ever be a super sub when the game's already opened up. But that's being harsh. But look who we're talking about comparing them to, those front three. So Klopp changed all of that. and he blamed the forwards squarely, as I kind of did.
Mhm.
But then they still ceased to create much. So actually, it was kind of the midfield that wasn't getting the ball. They just weren't clicking. It wasn't a good Liverpool performance in any way, shape, or form. And Fabinho injured again. One of my friends at football training was saying it just shows they don't have the depth of the squad. They should have more players available to them. But apparently Fabinho's injury is not going to be that serious. He's going to be back sooner rather than later. It's not a grade 3 tear. Having said that, you know you're in a champion team when they win without playing their best. That's when things are really scary. Yeah?
And Pete, given this latest injury run with what Liverpool's having at the moment in the EPL, Champions League and stuff, do you think this gives the edge now for City to be able to potentially take the title off them if they're having to change their squad, get players back in, whereas City have had all these injuries already and they're going to be able to blood some of their players back in a bit quicker?
Oh, look, I mean, who knows? I mean, the way the EPL is at the moment and where it's going to go for the rest of this season, I think it's going to be so close. I honestly reckon it will go up until the last week, and I reckon there could be 3 or 4 teams that could just win it on the last weekend. I really honestly do. I don't think there's going to be any clear winner this year. And that really sets it up for some exciting football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was huge to see teams like Aston Villa and Everton get beaten quite convincingly during the week. They're taking points off each other. It's only going to help United, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, really go for those top.
I mean, don't forget as well, both Manchester City, United, Aston Villa, and there's I can't remember the other one. They've got a game in hand.
Yeah.
Right. So having that one game in hand as well, depending when that is, that could mean a massive difference. Because even when I look at United at the moment, let's say, for example, you gave us 3 points and we're level with everyone else, that puts us to about 7th.
Yeah.
So depending what happens there, and this is why, even looking at the Champions League at the moment, if you can go out goals, if you can score lots of goals, right, keep your clean sheets. So just those 5 goals, they're going to make hell of a difference, especially after they play all 3 teams and they go and play the second round of those 3 teams as well. Even if they lose 1 or 2 of those games, that goal difference is going to become so pertinent in the general scheme of things going into the final round of 16.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we talk about Chelsea winning 4-0 as well. Very common game, So, this is what I was saying to Phil. I'm seeing at the moment, given this physical side of stuff with the EPL, we're only playing with 3 substitutions compared to 5 in the European tournaments. It's only going to help the EPL teams do very well, I think, in Europe, because they're going to be ready and pumped. And that extra 2 rotations is a huge difference to what they're doing in their league at the moment.
But by the way, Matty, just to switch focus off the English teams for a second, the real team that still scare me, and I think that I've put last season behind us, is Bayern Munich. Because not just that they score a lot of goals, but they can all seem to score. If you can name me a squad where more players can score at any moment, I mean, Kimmich is scoring. With a little flip-up volley towards the end of the match.
Yeah,
I just don't know which other squad has that. And the way they play the ball around, it's just. I mean, I've always kind of hated Bayern Munich. I find them arrogant somehow. But wow, they're playing good footy, right?
I'll tell you.
Yeah. Look, they are.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about that, Matty, previously, and I actually said that I can't see Bayern Munich losing again. I see them actually winning the Champions League again this year. They're just a team. They're a team of monsters. I call them a team of monsters because I don't think anyone's going to come close to them. I really can't see it.
Well, you know who I think is going to do really well this year and who's got extraordinarily good young talent is Borussia Dortmund. I think they're going to be the underdog. I reckon they've got a really excellent squad. They just work well as a team. They're sort of like a more powerful Ajax, They seem to be able to breed this incredible young talent, but they're physical. And I think that if they're on their day and Bayern is slightly off, that's where I can see something happening for sure in a Champions League game. Because cup ties, it's all a bit different. So, I reckon Borussia Dortmund's all right. Hey.
Right, I look forward to watching all of their young players play in different teams next year around the world. Not as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I must admit, though, it's a shame for Juventus and Barcelona that Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't able to play. I don't think it would have made a difference, personally. I think Barcelona, they deserved that win. And that first goal, well, it was unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a bit about this before, Messi-itis, where players get in good positions to shoot, and instead of shooting, they're wondering in the back of their mind, maybe I should pass to him because, and they if they develop a little bit more arrogance, for want of a better word, like an Eto'o or Ronaldinho, and kind of go themselves, that's what Dembele did there, right?
Yeah.
He took a shot, which is not from the Barcelona playbook. How dare you?
Yeah, exactly.
And what happens is you shoot, you score.
Yep.
Absolutely, and let's focus now our attention to the Europa League. In particular, there's a couple of results that really surprised me. I did not expect the Spurs to lose that game. I just think it's a schedule thing for them. They've played so much footy currently. They're bound to lose one game eventually, given how many qualifying games they've had to play. Just look tired, in my opinion. Pete, what did you think?
Yeah, look, I think honestly, I think Jose Mourinho, once again, it comes down to being that tactician and putting a team in there that, and these are the things, this is probably a good time for Tottenham to actually have a look at it and go, okay, I'll put these players in, I'll leave Kane out, I'll leave Son, I won't start them in the game. Yeah, it comes to depth. Who else is going to be there to actually pick those pieces up?
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment in the EPL, those two, Kane and Son, they're the dynamic duo. They are ripping everybody apart. But it just goes to show, if he was to lose one of those two, who's there? Who is there?
Agreed. What do you think, Phil? I agree. 100%. I worry about the Spurs with. And I always say this to you, it's their depth.
Yeah, they're a bit vulnerable. I agree with both of you there. And I'm a bit annoyed, like everyone, that he just doesn't put Bale on the park. I mean, I know he's not maybe fully fit or something, but just stick him on there. Usually he comes up with something. And I'm a big fan of that guy. So
yeah, absolutely.
Spurs looking a little vulnerable in Europe, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The thing is, right, I see in this Europa League, I really think that the English teams will do pretty well. But I reckon an outsider's perspective, Rangers, at the moment, they're carving it up in the Scottish Premier League. They're way ahead of Celtic. I think they're about 2 games ahead of them already. Gerrard's on fire. Celtic isn't playing very well. And they just seem to be getting wins left, right and centre at the moment. So they're definitely a team to watch out for. And I thought this morning, as an Arsenal fan, thank goodness we played some young players. It was just excellent to watch them carve through the midfield. It wasn't as boring zonal football. They were trying different things. Nketiah was on fire. That 10-minute spell from the 40th minute, then halftime to the 50th, that was exhilarating football. And there were some quality goals. Willock's goal into the top of the net, brilliant goal as well. And of course Pepe, absolutely stunning. They're way on top in their group stage at the moment.
The one thing with that, because I like to also look at, say, for example, the sports bets. If you look at the betting prior to that game, I think it was $1.90 versus $22. So Arsenal were expected to absolutely really trounce these guys. And 3-0 for me, I expected a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I really, really honestly expected a bit better. I mean, as I texted you, Matty, earlier on while I was watching that game, I was expecting 5-0.
Yeah. Same.
Well, the briefcase carrying manager, Mr. Arteta, he doesn't take risks and he doesn't extend anyone too far. And I think he's got to thank Pepe. I just want to drool over that goal because, as someone who tries to play the game, to drag it back and then finish in the one movement while you're kind of off balance that's something only a young kid, he wouldn't have even thought about that. He just thought, oh, yeah. And as he gets to be an older player, if he can keep doing that sort of thing, I doubt it. But that's why you've got to play young players, because they're unpredictable.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that was on his non-preferred. Everybody bags his right foot and he pulls out that. Got to be the goal of the Europa League for that round, for this round. That was just absolute quality class. I cry all the time that he needs to be on the ground at all times because you need that sort of flair, you know. But I really think Pepe, he needs somebody behind him who's creative. And the reason why he shone today was, I think, man of the match for me was Reece Nelson in that game, because it was tearing them apart. You know, 20-year-old, really, really quick, but extremely nimble, very creative, thinking of all these different ways to utilize the right and left-hand side. And of course, then by doing that, he draws all the players out there, and then Pepe's in the middle, can do his little 1-2, bang. It's just clinically excellent football, but very creative. And that's something we really, really miss. And if we don't do that sort of football against United, we're going to get spanked. Absolutely spanked. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts, Pete, on what I just said?
Yeah, look, I agree. I just think, you know what, where United are, if as I said, if they just keep on playing this pinball passing, that's what I'm going to call it, pinball passing. I tell you what, Arsenal don't stand a chance. They really don't stand a chance.
I agree.
Yeah, because it's just been exciting to watch.
Yeah,
you know, and yeah, look, you're going to go through your ebbs and flows. You're going to have a really beautiful run on at the moment, and that's awesome. Then you're going to go for a few matches and it's not going to work. And, you know, but this comes down to the manager. It comes down to putting the tactics together, making sure you've got the right substitutions in there. And I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's doing that at the moment. There was a bit of pressure at the start of the season. The players, they just weren't fully fit. They just weren't there. But there's no excuses, as we say. But they're starting to come into their own. Yeah. And it is exciting to watch.
Absolutely. And, you know, this leads me to the next question or two. I think this round of EPL is really going to set the tone for the top 10 in particular. And the games that I want to talk about, so we've already given our Manchester United Arsenal thoughts. I think if Arsenal gets 2-2 in that game, that they would take that point straight away. I would take that point right now, given the way that we're playing. The two other big games for me in this round is Liverpool versus West Ham, and I think West Ham is the absolute dark horse. They keep on pulling decent results against good teams. Had they seen this picture and seen how many points they've got off the top 6 or 7 in this round of games that they've done at the beginning of the season, I think they'd take it. And I think they're going to give Liverpool a bit of a run for their money. I wouldn't be surprised if it was either a draw or if Liverpool won maybe 2-1 or something. I think that the Hammers are onto something real good. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting because now I don't know I know that defensively Liverpool are bringing in an 18-year-old to play. Look, it depends. Can they click together as a team against West Ham? That's just the big question there. You know, can they click together? It's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be, look, it will be a tight game. I still expect Liverpool to actually come out and win this one 2-0.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Phil?
Well, I think one of the things I noticed about when Van Dijk is out is those lazy-looking passes that go for about 500 metres and land on a dinner plate. They miss that. They rely on that somehow. And with this 18-year-old, he's going to go into the match. He's just going to be trying to clear the ball every time, not make fancy passes. And West Ham's a physical side. So I think Liverpool's too smart, and I'd go for a 2-0 as well. But I feel fearful because of, like you said, it's kind of a bit of a pivotal moment. We've had all the international matches, had a couple of rounds of Champions League. Everyone has now had a taste of what it's like, and now we're back into it.
Absolutely, and this is where I think West Ham will really benefit from not playing European football. They'll be more fresh. They go in hard. They seem to be able to find goals. And, it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. And then the next big game of the round involves Phil's team. He loves his Leeds. It's going to be a cracker of a game. Leeds versus Leicester at Leeds home. This game has all the ingredients to be an absolute blockbuster of a game. And Phil, we'll start with you. Your thoughts, who's going to win, and what your score prediction will be.
Well, it's my turn to hate Jamie Vardy, that little bugger, because he's so bloody quick. And Leeds, when you compare him to Bamford, who's if his confidence keeps going, I want to say 2-1 or 3-1 even to Leeds, of course. But Leicester, if there's a little bit more to them than meets the eye if they get it right on the day.
Mm-hmm. You, Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I concur with what Phil was saying there, but it's actually interesting because it was only a couple of games ago. Jamie Vardy had 2 weeks where he was just dead quiet. And all it takes is that little click. That goal he scored last week was brilliant. And he was on target with it. And that's good old Jamie Vardy. And that's all it takes. This morning's game as well in the Europa. So I'm expecting this to be tough, but I tell you what, my result, I'm actually going to go, I reckon Leeds will continue on with their run at the moment. I'm going 3-1. I think Leeds really, what Bielsa's doing there is exciting. I'm actually excited for Leeds. It's exciting bloody football that everyone needs to sit back and watch, because the team that came up from the Championship last year up into the Premier League, and they're showing some guts, and they're romping it in. I love it. Great football. Leeds, as I said, Leeds will finish in that top 10. Yeah. Wherever that will be, well, that's going to be up to them. But they're going to cause a few problems. Mark my word.
Yeah. I know both of you probably saw my rant this week, and I challenged Arsenal. Show some balls, right? That's what Leeds does to a team. And that's why they're so good this year. They show balls, they show courage, and they're not scared to actually take a little bit of time during the game, work out what the zonal structure is. I've said to Phil this today as well. And they just want to break it straight away. They want to find the gaps and they want to go for it. And the one thing, that I love about this Leeds team is that if they've learned anything from the Arsenal game watching it, is that Jamie Vardy, you cannot be defensively switched off for 1 second with him. He can have 2 quiet games, but an error like what Mustafi did, giving him that much space. I mean, Pete, if I did a ball that good to you, you would score that goal. It hit your head, it'll go straight in. Unstoppable goal, but crap defending. So that's all they need to do, is just not defend poor against Vardy. I reckon they got this in the bag. I'll give them a 2-1. And also because they haven't had to play European footy as well. I think it's a huge thing. And also they got scored against today as well. So I don't see Leicester keeping a clean sheet either. So
I'm just going to say one thing on this, because it's actually interesting. I know we keep talking about the European football and the depth of squads and the way it is. And I think this is where the academies are going to come in later in the season, and some of these younger players, because what I noticed, like with United against Leipzig, was Mason Greenwood played really well in that first half. And I think that was phenomenal for him to come off. Rashford comes on, boom, boom, boom. As I said, it's going to come, the managers are going to play such a pivotal part to the game for the rest of this season. And I just think some of these younger players coming through the academies, it's going to be very, very good for the whole league.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Leeds don't have the fastest backs, I think, in the world. So with your Vardy, and it's what we all really like about it is they're 2 somehow very English teams, aren't they? The way they play.
Yeah.
Classic English style. It's exciting. They run hard. They run a lot. They've got speed. Leicester has speed. And Leeds has this slightly gung-ho approach. It's going to be a cracker.
But it's...
Yeah, Bielsa's done so well. He's just done so well with these kids. And I just look at them and just go, they're a pleasure to watch. They are just a pleasure. They go out there and they're actually, it's physical. just good football, and it can go on a dice, and they do it well.
But I mean, this is the beauty about the EPL. As I've said, I'm going to keep harping on this point. Name me quality managers that are going to be managing the lower teams, like Ancelotti with Everton. They've been nowhere for the last 4 or 5 years. The Leeds manager himself, phenomenal coach. Phenomenal coach. But all of these lower teams, they're all getting quality managers. I mean, even Moyes,
Mourinho, Tottenham.
Yeah. No, you're correct though. Like it's insane, and yet it's interesting to see, like, how you'd expect a United team, an Arsenal team, to have this quality style of manager, but they've gone with a much more youthful approach from players who have been previous leaders or captains of their team. It just means it's going to be a fascinating season. Lampard at Chelsea as well. I mean, that means that the whole top 8 to 10 teams, it's going to be so even,
It's actually interesting when I look at these managers, and, let's go back a few weeks ago when Man United got beaten by Tottenham 6-1 at Old Trafford. Now, and everyone just started to question what's happening there. Now, what I love about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is I do believe the board of United at the moment, whatever they are doing, it's right. There is something right about it. And I hate to say it, but there is something right about it, because I know they came out with their financials and everything, and it's not the best. However, just everything seems to be clicking at the moment. And it's just, there's something good about what's happening at United. Yet you can go out and buy a team like, what Chelsea have done, spending over £200 million. What United have actually done, I think they've been given a direction by the board to say, this is all we're going to do. And to actually keep that same squad and move into the next season, that there's also some real positives behind it.
But it just proves to me, and I'll get Phil to elaborate on this point, you can't buy a team and expect them to work properly. Let's have a look at the example. PSG, they've got all this amazing talent, haven't won a Champions League when they should have. City, exactly the same thing. Spent all this money, probably have the richest squad in the world, haven't won a Champions League either. You know what I mean? And then you've got all these, you've got so many teams. Barcelona, it was awful last year. They probably have one of the richest squads again. Terrible. Didn't win a Champions League either, And you can't buy that sort of thing. And this is what we're seeing with Chelsea this year in particular. Their defence is all over the place.
Hang on. Sorry, I got to stop this. This feels like a rant. You asked me to what was the fancy word you used? Elaborate.
Yeah.
So you can buy a squad that wins, but you've got to buy the right players. Look at the Galacticos. That was one of the most entertaining teams in the history of football. They knew how to play together. Admittedly, that was in a Frank Rijkaard, Pep Guardiola, who've kind of spoiled the game for us by making it too tactical. So players had a bit more freedom. As for Barcelona having a terrible season because they didn't win the Champions League nor La Liga, I don't know if it was a terrible season. They're not playing the greatest football, that's true. And as for PSG not being a competitive force, I mean, they made the final, didn't they? Or the semis or something?
They were in the final with Bayern Munich.
Yeah, and the final was not a cakewalk in the park. Bayern, they could have won that game, actually. So I think they are a great team, and they have been expensively assembled. But now you're thinking about Leeds and Everton, who are not as expensively assembled, and they're competing against these guys. So it just a little bit depends on your philosophy. If you're Alonso and you're driving my Nissan out the front, you're gonna do a better job than I am driving a Ferrari. Huh?
But my point is not even Leeds or Everton. It's the fact that Bayern Munich is like a quarter or half the amount of that squad. The Liverpool team won Champions League, not even close. The one that won in 2005, not even close. And then all the fantastic United teams that they had, they didn't spend anywhere near as much money as these teams are. But what I'm saying is they built this culture and this sort of team philosophy of just winning stuff. I think it's much more important, And this is the problem I see with Chelsea. is that they actually had a pretty reasonable squad last year. Sure, they should have beaten Arsenal in the FA Cup. I always go on about that. But what they did with that youth team was phenomenal. And now they've just exiled half of that team and put in all these players that they've bought. They're not playing well. They're not playing well as a team.
I think they're starting to gel, that Chelsea team, actually.
Yeah.
They're starting to look a bit ominous, but very shaky start, a little bit like United this season. And I've got an enormous amount of time for Mr. Frank Lampard. Loved him as a player. And I sort of hope they do well. They just look a little ungritty, would you say?
Yeah. Oh, look, especially you look at Werner. I like him. Timo Werner's, he's a brilliant player. And you start to put the Germans together in the one squad and, they're starting to click together better. And, it starts to, Chelsea will be fine. Chelsea, for me, they'll finish in the top 4 somewhere. I do honestly see it. I said at the beginning, it's going to take Chelsea a bit of time to come together. When they do, watch out. And after watching with Mendy in goal last week against Man United, he's phenomenal, and that's what they need.
Do you think that young guy is out? I felt really sorry for him. That was the previous one. He's gone, right? He's
finished.
I know.
Yeah. And it's just, I think any player that comes into a squad and they're just on form, they're on key week after week. I tell you what, if you get shown the door, that's it. It's a hard one, but that's the game of football at the moment.
Yeah.
Look at that poor bastard who played for Liverpool and dropped the ball twice in that Champions League.
Oh, I know.
Loris, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Harriet.
Won't see him no more.
No, that's right. But that's all it takes. And as we're getting back to when I was saying about De Gea earlier on, they brought Henderson back and then all of a sudden De Gea's going, shit, if I have a bad game after bad game here, I'm going to lose my number 1.
Yeah.
And he's picked it up.
But I mean, again, for him, I've always felt that he's had such a huge workload at United. And given the defensive frailties that have happened over the last 3 years or 4 years, it's put enormous pressure on him to make split-second decisions. And it's nice to see with the team, because the defense is starting to gel together and they're starting to create opportunities but then defend properly. It's helping him a lot.
Matty, I couldn't agree more. There's a psychological aspect too. When you're De Gea and you join Manchester United when he did, you're expecting to win. And when you win, it's easier to give your best.
Yeah.
And then he joined this team that collapsed around him and he's carried them for so many seasons without being able to win. It's not what he had in his mind.
No.
When he joined. So maybe that little bit of time out has, the little bit of competition, as you say, Pete, has just made him go into a sort of a second win state.
For me as well, Harry Maguire, look, he's had a shocking start to the season. But I tell you what, once again, he's going to be one of those players. If everyone starts, which they are, when the team starts to gel around him, that he will only lift.
Yeah.
And when he lifts as well, defensively, Man United will just get stronger.
Yeah.
And then they can afford to see, this is the thing, we've been talking about the depth of squad as well. And once you get these substitutions right and you can rest players for the first half, bring them in the 60th, 70th minute and give them the last 20, 30 minutes to play out, it's brilliant. And that's what Ollie's been doing with Pogba, with Fernandes. Hey, this is great. And I like Marta. When Juan Marta comes on and Fernandes are playing together, it's instrumental. It's beautiful to watch. And he's starting to get it right. And that's what I'm loving. And that's what's exciting about football is when you see a young manager who's starting to get it right. Yeah. That's beautiful to see.
All I think United would love to see is if Martial can bring that Champions League football into the EPL. Oh, man, you guys are going to be unstoppable. That guy is so good when he's on fire like that as well. I really think if he clicks and you can get him really clicking in the front and he's able to kick those goals in the first 20 to 30 minutes consistently like that, just scoring one on the scoreboard like that, it's going to create a huge amount of pressure on other teams, which is not what you've been able to do particularly well this season yet in the EPL.
By the way, notice none of us have mentioned Cavani yet. I haven't had a chance to watch him play much. How's he been? How's he been looking out there?
Well, actually, I actually saw him when he came on against Leipzig. He was actually good. And it was actually, and when I say good, he wasn't great, but he was good. A couple of times he looks a little bit slow. He looks a little bit slow. And I just saw him do a couple of runs there. I must admit, he was offside. Fernandez running towards goal. Fernandez, for me, is a bit sloppy at the moment.
Yeah.
He's a little bit sloppy because he looked out, glanced over to your right-hand side. Hey, Cavani was offside and he passed it to him. And even though Cavani scored that goal, and it was offside, but I think that was probably good for Cavani. For the younger players, for Cavani just to be there, a lot of these young kids, your Greenwoods, your Rashfords, they would be looking up to this guy. And for him just to be there, be part of the squad, I feel he's actually good.
Well, you know what I think, Pete? What he can be very useful for is that if he's not going to be quick, he can be physical in that position. And so if he can attract a couple of defenders, then all of your quick forwards like Rashford, Martial can just break on those guys and they can get more space, which is what they've needed in the EPL, which they haven't had. However, they've had it in Champions League. So,
well, I mean, don't be surprised. I reckon that Cavani is going to get a good run for the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup to really bring his speed up and bring his presence. And I think he's going to team up with Greenwood quite a lot up front. And I think you're going to see, Rashford, Martial, they're teamed up. They have done for many years now. And I think you will see Cavani and also with Greenwood match up front.
The combinations. One thing, back to that goal where Fernandez delayed the pass and then saw that he was offside. And then 10 seconds later, it seemed like played the ball anyway. That was a bit weird. But you're right. The way Cavani finished that, no hesitation, no fear, just wallop. I don't think the United has a player like that.
That's right. That's exciting to watch.
Yeah.
The only thing that I see with United is you've just got to get Donny van de Beek more involved. That kid is great.
Why? Because he cost a lot.
Well, it's the most expensive one out of the lot.
Sure,
but I tell you what, though, Matty, he started out against Leipzig, and it was actually good to see him start a game. Now, don't forget, everyone at the moment is jumping on this bandwagon of, why isn't he starting? Why isn't he starting? Come on, let's go back to the managerial tactics of the actual season, because bringing him on against Leipzig, he was great. Right at the moment, he's been more of a substitute. But mark my words, there will come a time. What happens if you get one or two players injured? He'll be in every game. Yeah. And this is where that being a tactician, sitting back, getting your substitutions right, bringing them in, because all of a sudden, if you've got to completely change a squad, a complete 180, because you've got a couple of bad injuries, right, then you know that, okay, Donny van de Beek, you're going to have to start the next 10 games. Because until we get these two players back, and it's really players also fighting for their positions as well. And this is what we're talking about earlier with De Gea, with Henderson, Luke Shaw, he's really come out. Wan-Bissaka, well, I mean, God, yeah. I mean, Spider, he's just going, yep, thank you very much.
I mean, Van der Beek's competing for his position with who? With Pogba, and then with all those forwards, if they take one off, and Fernandez.
Correct.
They can take him off. So it's good for all of them to see that there's someone over their shoulder. Actually, it's only good for the squad. It's a good depth, right?
It is, and it's actually great to watch, especially when you see Fernandez, Pogba, and they're sitting on the bench, and they're playing great football. And then you get Mason Greenwood scores a beautiful goal in the corner, and then Ollie just brings on Rashford and just Pogba, and just really just everything just lifts again. That is football.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be a key this week, because I didn't think that the Manchester United and Chelsea game was great. Let's see if you can actually bring the football from the Champions League back into the EPL. And I'm going to finish on this note. For me, the most important thing for the EPL this season coming up in the next 6 months is actually going to be this January transfer window. I think there's going to be a lot of dealings that will happen with this. Squads are going to have to get strengthened enormously because of the fixtures and probably the amount of injuries that are going to happen. I think there's going to be some very interesting business that's going to happen. It's really going to determine the second half of the year.
I'm going to say no to that, Matty. I really don't see it happening. I think I don't think you're going to see a great deal. You may see little bits and pieces. I don't think you're going to see anything great come through. What's going on at the moment with COVID-19, there won't be any spectators coming into the sport. I don't think you're going to see teams spending big money here. I think the squads, they will have the depth there, but I think unless you start to bring the younger players through, they're not going to go and spend big money. I can't see it. Phil, what do you reckon?
I think in any other season, Matty might have been right, but with COVID and the takings down, it's a lot of money lost. They're going to just shore up themselves. Completely agree. By the way, Matty, you said you wanted to wrap up, but I can't help it. I've got to say something about fucking VAR again, ruining the game of football. Yeah. I mean, so many. How many we're going to see in the upcoming weekend where players don't know when to celebrate, where they waste a lot of energy because the linesman was too afraid to put up his bloody flag. And I tell these words to you: benefit of the doubt. They should have a benefit of the doubt where if you can't tell within a few centimetres, then give the goal. The attacking team should always be given the advantage.
Phil, you must love watching the Rivals segment because last week this is what we were talking about.
Look, my biggest piss off in this world at the moment is VAR.
Really?
And that's what you see every single weekend. You know, if there's one goal in it between 3 points and 1 point, it's bloody VAR. And this is where it's just becoming fundamentally bullshit because it's really screwing the game up. And the thing is, when you see someone's fucking an elbow, oh my God. Hello, give me friggin' hair and let me rip it out again. A fucking elbow is offside. God help me.
You're saying a fucking elbow, but soon, I mean, there was a goal ruled out on the weekend. I don't remember which team, but there was a near post header and it went across and into the corner. No one else touched it and it was ruled out. And I was just thinking, I don't even care. Maybe it was offside, but if my hair's too long, maybe it'll obscure the keeper's view.
No, it's going to be your whiskers, mate. It's going to be length of how long your whiskers are.
The shine off the top.
Mine will be clean shaven. But look, I'm putting my stamp on this. Come January, man, you're going to see a team like Arsenal and a few of these other teams around Europe, they're going to spend big. Mark my words. This is going to happen. No. This is going to happen, man.
You live in hope because you're an Arsenal.
Dream on, Matty.
I think we're going to sign somebody like Maguire. I reckon we're going to spend 50 million. Boom. I am absolutely dead confident that that's going to.
I think he'll just put them on the bench because they lose the ball twice in training.
No, you know what the latest rant on like all of these Arsenal fan TV things is Mike L. Wenger at the moment because it's just why I put them on the bench. Anyways, enough of slamming Arsenal. Fair enough, they deserve it. They're playing like a putrid bunch of schoolboys, useless. We might as well have a pram thrown out of the sandbox, as I keep saying. And this is where the Rivals come in because we want our teams to be right up there. United's getting their gear into motion. They're doing great things in the Champions League. We'll probably see that happen this week. And you'll see the Gunners go, we are the Rivals. Wonderful to have Pete and Phil on board. And we hope to see you all again very, very, very soon. Good afternoon to you all.